Welcome to the Fully Mindful, where we explore what it means to live with intention, creativity, authenticity, and connection. I'm your host, Melissa Chareau, mindfulness and breathwork facilitator, neurodivergent lawyer and coach, and fellow human navigating this wild and beautiful ride we call life. On this podcast, we dive deep with interviews featuring inspiring guests, share solo mini episodes packed with guided mindfulness practices to help you center and thrive, and mix things up with tangents and sidebars, where my friend and fellow podcaster Debbie Harrell from the New World Normal joins me for some real, random, and meaningful conversations. So if you're ready to pause, reflect, and expand, you're in the right place. Let's get fully mindful. Welcome to the Fully Mindful. Today's episode is really a treat. I am interviewing Theresa Lear Levine, who is a master EFT practitioner, and that means she does emotional freedom technique, which a lot of us know as tapping, and which has been monumentally helpful in my life and many people's lives. And we're going to get into it a little bit, talk about how she got into it, how she found her purpose there, and how it can really help you. And at the end, you'll find out there's going to be an exclusive tap along with me that you will be able to get exclusively here at the Fully Mindful with Theresa Lear Levine, and it's super exciting. You'll get to see us in action, and I can't wait for you to see what we do. Thanks, and enjoy the show. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Melissa with the Fully Mindful, and I have such a treat here because I have Theresa Lear Levine, who is one of the most amazing coaches for female entrepreneurs as well as other human beings. And she is my coach. And I was lucky enough to find her, I guess, probably last September. More on that in a moment. And she's been helping female entrepreneurs and others with mental, physical, spiritual, all things good for, I think, something like 25 years or something. Is that right?
Yeah, you're dating me. Yeah.
Well, I know we're not on video, but everyone should know she looks like she's about 22 years old. Perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect everything. But I know she's just a human among humans, just like the rest of us. So what got you into this field? How did you first get interested in this?
I think it's honestly, it's life. Life got me into this field. It's this tangled web of things that, I was always interested in figuring out, getting to the bottom to learning more about. I'm like you, I'm that ADHD curious mind. And when I would encounter issues, challenges, problems, whatever you want to call them, I was always wondering, like, why did it happen? Why am I dealing with it this way? Is there a better way? And so on and so forth. And life's thrown some curveballs over the years. So I kind of started to accumulate the bag of tricks, meditation, visualizations, affirmations, all sorts of different, things. And then it kind of became overwhelming. What do I need to use when and for how long? And is that enough? And, you can really start to go a little bit nutty trying to figure out if you're really doing what's working or if there's a better option. And when I stumbled across emotional freedom techniques, which had been trying to get me to stumble across them for a long time, but I wasn't willing to take the step. And, it was the right time when I did. And it was like, okay, here's something that works for everything. And while that alone is a little bit mind-blowing, it also was really comforting to me, because no more did I need to figure out, like, oh, do I need therapy for this? Or do I meditate? Or do I just need more sleep? Or maybe I just need to hang out with a friend or whatever. I could just do a tapping round and in 5 or 10 minutes feel totally different about whatever it was that had been previously troubling me. That's not to say that I threw all those other modalities out the window and don't do them, but I could relax a little bit around it because I knew that I had the thing that worked for everything, and I didn't have to stress about if I was on the right path.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to unpack a little bit of both of the two things that I heard you say, well, maybe three. One is that you found something that works for virtually everything, and you called it emotional freedom techniques, EFT, which I think is commonly known as tapping. Tell us a little bit more about that, because some folks may not know what that is.
Yeah, of course. And you and I have been doing it together for coming up on a year and a few more months. So it feels like, old hat talking about it, but it's so new to so many people. And it's so strange to me that it is, because it's like the most natural thing to normalize and regulate our nervous system and everything else. So yeah, it is commonly called tapping. And in the way that we use it now, it's been around since like the mid 90s, but it's based in ancient Chinese medicine that's been around for thousands of years, as well as modern psychotherapy. So basically what it comes down to is that when we have any issue, physical, emotional, something in the past, something we're worried about happening in the future, something that's happening right here in the present moment, that dis-ease in one of our bodies, is caused by an energetic blockage of some sort somewhere. And the tapping, along with focusing in on the negative feeling, the problem, the challenge, while you're doing tapping with your fingertips, just like a few of your fingers in these kind of main 8 places on the body, plus like the side of our hand typically, tends to help move the energy that's blocked, and things start to shift. Sometimes as extremely as, you do one round and the problem is gone, like forever. Sometimes it's like peeling an onion or something. You get a little layer, a little shift here, you notice something, get a little more conscious, work on the next thing. But eventually you get to the root of it. And it's unlike talk therapy, because you've gotten to calm the physical body and your emotions at the same time. And that really gives you a much fuller resolution with things and prevents things from triggering the same thing happening over and over again, because it's resolved.
Yeah, and I literally, and just for anyone who's listening, I started to see Theresa back right before I went on a flight to France. And I had previously dealt with my fear of flying, my phobia. And, after almost 2 years of the pandemic, it was back. And so I worked with Theresa on that issue with tapping. And one of the things that I was really concerned about, and I remember, we talked about this, was, I've already dealt with this problem. I've been to cognitive behavioral therapy. I've done, NLP. I have done like all these things, how is this going to work? And I can't remember exactly what you said to me, but correct me if I'm wrong. It was something like, well, sure, you might have processed it in your mind, but you haven't processed it yet in your nervous system.
Probably. That sounds about like something.
That sounds something like you would say. And then it was like, oh, that makes so much sense, right? And I can't remember. There's a book, I can't remember the name. It's like the body knows the score or something. Like
the body keeps the score.
The body keeps the score. And we store these experiences and memories in our nervous system, in our bodies. And, you mentioned psychotherapy uses this technique. You mentioned that this is an ancient Chinese medicinal therapy. So this is rooted in science, right?
Oh, it's completely scientific. I like to have a lot of fun with it. And I think that's where people get a little bit misconstrued, that it's some like made up concoction of things or something, but it's totally scientific. There's tons of studies out there that prove its efficacy in all different areas. And it's really cool the way that we can, regulate ourselves like that. And it's so simple. It's like, how are they not teaching this to like preschoolers? Because I can only imagine, like, that's my whole like purpose in doing this and coaching people with this as like at the heart of my toolbox, is that it's such a ripple effect. Like as each person changes and grows through this, it affects another and another and another. And suddenly we're all showing up differently. And that's really kind of like my dream and my vision, is a world with better regulated nervous systems and better emotional processing, and being able to like show up in the present moment and actually enjoy our lives.
Well, we might have a really different political environment if that were the case.
Can you imagine if like, whichever, side you're with or whatever, if everybody was like tapping, like all the politicians were actually like working and processing things? That would be really interesting.
Well, and what I think so too, and what I love about it, and related to meditation, and you did mention that you didn't give up all these other modalities. Often, what people think of, whether it's tapping or meditation, is that the whole point is to clear your mind and to like almost like, I don't know, eject the problem, right? But what I've found with EFT and in working with you, as well as in mindfulness, is you actually kind of lean into it.
Yeah.
I
You kind of
mean,
like surround it with that love, acceptance, and
yeah,
forgiveness. And it kind of just, I don't know, it's like almost like it reassimilates back into your being as an okay thing instead of something totally bothersome. And it's not like you're ejecting it.
right. And it's not like we're lying to ourselves either. It's not like we're saying affirmations repeatedly, ignoring the problem. It's kind of the opposite, right?
Yeah, you get to get like really negative and snarky and irritable and like just be your like petty horrible self. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing horrible about it. It's fun actually. I know the first few times that I did it, I just really let myself like say what I was feeling without trying to sugarcoat it and without trying to show up in some like politically correct way about what I was feeling. It felt so good. And it really changed the way I felt very quickly instead of trying to act like, even though I know I should feel differently than this and I don't, I, love, accept, and forgive myself.
Yeah. Well, we've definitely, I know, in working together, and we've moved on from the flying phobia because I don't have it anymore because of the success of tapping.
That's awesome.
We've worked on lots of other things, including, wow, I mean, so many things, some really deep things,
Yes.
and some really deep healing, which I so appreciate and would urge, anyone who's ever thought, if you have this like repeated problem that just keeps rearing up and just showing up over and over again, and it's baffling because maybe you've done, maybe you meditate all the time, maybe you run,
Yeah.
maybe you exercise, maybe you've done cognitive behavioral therapy, like, I don't know, maybe try something different like this.
Yeah, I mean, and the problem with that is that if you feel like you've done all the things and stuff, then you're also probably beating yourself up for not having healed yet or
Mhm.
not having changed. And that's a whole other thing to deal with and process too. But like I know with the example that you gave about, not wanting to have to work on the darn flying stuff again because you'd already done it before. Like we're processing things differently. And also, like I always promise, it's not going to take as long as you've already spent working on it. And like when
Right.
you like it's pretty quick once you get in there and like are willing to do the work, but it also, because it's science, it works either way. Like you don't have to show up like totally in belief that this is going to shift and change things for you. You just got to show up and do it and then notice what changes for you.
So, what would you say? I mean, I know you've been doing this for a long time, but you said, and you said you were curious about these things, and we were talking about, we both have ADHD, and it's sort of like the next shiny object thing, and but yet this has really sustained your attention and your practice. But the thing that I love also about what you said earlier, just going back to that, was that it's, we get fed so many things, so many message. This thing works if you do it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 107 to 305. But then, oh no, next week you actually need to do it on Tuesdays, and you have to do this prescription. We get that with diets. We get that with
Yeah.
all sorts of practices. And this is just sort of like, it's very simple and always works.
Yeah, it is. And that might seem boring, but I find it really exciting because even if I have like a niche of women that I tend to work with, sometimes I, stray. There's some brave men out there that enjoy working with me too. But even if it's kind of that, female entrepreneurial spirit that keeps showing up, they all have different pasts. They all have different presents, and they all have different desires and wants and things they want to, change about their life. So even if they're that same type of person in that one broad way, it's always a different challenge in like how to approach it. And even with, figuring out how we're going to do the work, it's very creative, and I get to think about it a lot and really feel into kind of putting myself in that person's energy and feeling like, well, how would I want to treat this if I was them? All that kind of stuff. So for me, it never gets boring, which I think for my ADHD brain is a lot of fun, even if it is like being the practitioner every day. I get to do it differently every day. And I get to also entertain my desire to always want to be learning more, because my clients love it when I have a new modality that I'm like, oh, but try this too, or
Right.
let's add a little bit of that in. But the cool thing is that they don't have to worry about it. I can be like, this is the perfect place to insert this one thing. Just, work with me here. We'll get it taken care of. So yeah, it keeps me very entertained, which I can't say for other things I've done in my life.
Yeah, I've been on every, I don't know, diet food plan known to man, I think. So I hear you.
Yeah.
Try lots of different things. But you mentioned it was curiosity that got you here, but was there anything else, like, was there anything personal that led you to trying EFT and wanting to explore that?
Well, when I first started trying it, it was like I had this laundry list of things just that life had brought up. I'm a child of divorce. I have my own teen traumas. People always talk about like, working with your inner child, but I think working with the inner teen is as important, if not more important than the inner child. I mean, we got to go like get everything right with the inner child first so that we can then have a good container and support that inner teen. But I know for myself and most people I work with, the inner teen and the young woman inside of us has a lot of stuff where, things either went wrong or we just didn't know better. So we couldn't do better. And maybe we're still expecting that we should have, and not giving ourselves the compassion of like, hey, like you did the best you could with what you had at the time. And like, look at you now. But yeah, so I mean, I had my own, traumas through the teenage years. And then, I got married relatively young in my early 20s. And that marriage was not really awesome from the beginning. And we had my first son together, and then we got divorced. So there was a lot of process there too, because like even when that's the best thing and it's what you want, there's still a lot to come to terms with. So I had stuff to work on there.
Feelings.
Sorry, what?
Well, I'm sorry, I totally interrupted. There's just so many feelings, whether it's from, like you said, trauma of just being a teenager, which in itself really is. It's like you're with all these added hormones and things that you're learning, and then to move on and then to be married at such a young age. And like you said, even though knowing it was right, it's still so much, especially when you have a child together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think even when you're a teenager or a kid and things are going smoothly in your life, I mean, I have great memories of my younger years, but even if everything was great, there's still so much to figure out. And I mean, like humans, we develop for so long, I mean, there's still parts of us that are growing and changing and evolving into like our early 20s. So like, how could we possibly be expected to have it all figured out before then? And I mean, even now I'm in my 40s, I still don't have it all figured out, but I feel a lot better about not having it figured out and just leaning into allowing, the universe to co-collaborate with me and just having some faith that I'm right where I need to be every second of every day.
And yeah, you're married again now and have been for a long time, right?
Yeah, 13 years.
13 years, and you have three additional kids.
Yeah, four
and
boys
so
total between
four total, four boys in the house, ranging from what age to what age?
the youngest is 5, preschool. There's an 8-year-old in 2nd grade, a 12-year-old in 6th grade, and a soon-to-be 17-year-old in 11th grade.
Oh my gosh, is he driving?
Yes, he just officially got his license like 2 weeks ago. So
I bet you have to do some
this
tapping.
COVID stuff, like kids are not as interested in learning to drive and getting their license. I know when I turned 16, I was like at the motor vehicle place to get my license that day. I was like, I don't care, it's my birthday, I'm gonna go get my license. And these days I think there's not as much exciting stuff to drive to.
Yeah, that's probably
like,
true.
and we're all still kind of like bouncing back from this pandemic, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't really need it.
Yeah. So, I mean, do your boys, have you have you introduced tapping to them, and if so, how do they respond to it?
Like they know that tapping lives here,
Uh-huh.
but they kind of like sidestep it like some, unwanted roommate or something. So it's like, okay, it's mom's thing. Like nobody wants to do what their mom's doing. Like I can remember my mom like watching PBS specials with like Wayne Dyer and stuff when I was growing up. And I absolutely love Wayne Dyer now, but oh my God, like just shoot me now when I was like 12. Like
Right.
this, like what is mom even watching? Like this is crazy. So yeah, no, nobody wants to do what I do, They just
Yeah,
all
I've
think I'm
tried
crazy.
really
They're
hard.
like, whoa, have you Googled mom's name lately? There's all this stuff that comes up. Like, I'm like, but nothing comes up when you Google dad.
Yeah,
It's
funny
just
how
like
that
they don't
works.
care. I mean, but they know it's there. My well, actually, my 12-year-old and my 5-year-old are more willing to try it than the 8-year-old and the 16-year-old. But they all understand how to apply it if they need to. So I don't know if behind closed doors a little tapping goes down or
Mhm.
if they'll just figure it out later. I wish they would try it. I mean, it's like that you have that vision of like that family tapping circle, like kumbaya kind of moment or whatever, but it's not actually happening here. So, if anybody thinks it's like just because it's what I do that everybody's like all, getting along great and just tapping it all out. That's not how it works. We have our typical family circumstances here, like any family. But you know what? I can show up a lot better than I used to. So,
Mhm.
and since I'm the only thing that I can control, then I've chosen to be a-okay with that. And I can, kind of be a role model and show them how mom's doing it, and they can choose how they want to do it.
I'm glad to hear I'm not alone. I teach meditation, and I don't think I could pay my 14-year-old enough money to meditate with me. I used to teach yoga. I don't think I could get her to do yoga if her life depended on it. So,
Yeah, it's like you just
um,
wish like you could just get them to show up, like just give me 8 hours and let me just show you how this could all be so
yeah.
different. But nobody's going to show up for that.
No, the
I
best
wouldn't
you
have
can do
either.
is just be an example of what it looks like when you do practice these modalities, and the peace and happiness that it creates in our lives, and attraction rather than promotion, as they say.
Yeah, it's the ultimate letting go.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It absolutely is.
Yep.
So I guess over the years, you've used a lot of other modalities like energy work and chakra work. Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about that.
Well, energy is everything. So I feel like that can never be overlooked. And it is like, I said to my husband the other day, I'm like, you know, we went to get the emissions tested, and the guy that tested our emissions in the car was like, not happy to be alive. Like, and
No.
like, I talk to people. I'm always like, you know what? I work hard on my energy. I think it's pretty good. I'm happy to bring it, share it, whatever. So he's like putting the hose in the car, and my husband got out to pay, and he kind of looks back at me because he's like, oh, she's going in, like she's gonna say something to the guy. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? How's your morning going? Like, guess it's okay. It's like, all right, cool. Can't wait for the day to be over. I was like, oh, are you getting close to the end of your shift? Just started.
Oh, no.
All I can do, like, not to kind of chuckle, like I feel bad for the guy, but I'm just like, oh wow, like it's
Yeah.
bad. And just like, hey, like I hope your day gets better for you, And by the end, he almost smiled by the end of our conversation. But like I'm pulling out my husband from that, and I'm like, some people have just it's never even crossed their mind that if they just chose a different frequency, a little bit of a different energy, just a little, like I'm not talking about him like getting all super happy or whatever, but just like a step up from where he is and just see what changes and what shifts. But like so many people, I don't think have ever even contemplated their energy, the energy in the world, the way that things work with the universe,
Mhm.
their chakra system. We have all these different kind of like energy portals in our body that make up the chakra system. And they're all aligned with different organs, different things that are happening in our life, all this kind of stuff. And when I started working with the EFT work more, it made sense to incorporate that kind of work, whether people know I'm doing like kind of a chakra assessment also is kind of like up to them. I'm doing it one way or another, but some people don't want to hear about chakras. So, it's like, but I know like what's happening in the lower chakras and the upper chakras and where they're blocked. So I can figure out where to work things out, because in order to bring anything good into our life, like we've got to be able to bring it down from the upper chakras into the lower chakras. And if we've got blockages along the way and things that have happened throughout our life that we haven't processed yet, they're going to get hung up. Like, even if you can manifest the thing, it might manifest not in the best way. Like maybe you're trying to manifest a great job or, whatever. And instead you just manifest a crap ton of work. Like you have the job, but it's just like nonstop work and effort and everything else, instead of the ease and the joy that you were dreaming of when you were, thinking about it. And all of that just has to do with, stuff that you haven't cleared yet. So yeah, energy work fascinates me. Like I've always loved like Donna Eden's work, and, she does really cool stuff with energy, and just all the little tweaks and things that you can do to just increase your energy. And of course that goes hand in hand with law of attraction, which I'm a huge fan of, also science. And, it's just, I feel like between energy work and EFT and law of attraction, there's like nothing that you can't like figure out and make right in the world.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey everybody, this is Melissa with the Fully Mindful. It's the new year, and I bet you're feeling the need to unlock your full potential and embrace empowerment, or maybe something completely different. Well, I'm excited to offer a new program with one-on-one breathwork and coaching sessions. We'll embark on a truly transformative journey of self-discovery, combining conscious, connected breathwork and embodiment coaching, and more. So contact me, Melissa, at the Fully Mindful, for your transformative session today. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so fascinating. Our culture often is ready to dismiss a lot of these modalities because they just don't know, right? Like you were saying, all of these modalities are rooted in science, and all that people have to do is maybe a little bit of research about it, and they'll see that this is absolutely supported by science. And then, if nothing else, I mean, I guess I always think, why not do an experiment? I mean, none of this is going to hurt somebody, right? So why not just have an open mind, do an experiment, and see what happens for you?
Yeah.
And, a tapping session can take 10 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that.
That's typical, but also can take less. I've recorded some that are even like, out there on YouTube, they're like 3 minutes. Like just, sometimes we don't have a whole lot of time. And what I love about it too, is that it doesn't have to be a formal thing. You don't have to like go be by yourself somewhere or whatever. When we were talking about the fear of flying and you were worried about like, I don't want to be like, banging my head and all this stuff while I'm on the plane. It's like, okay, well, you got like a blanket or a sweatshirt or something, tap the sides of your fingers while you're, kind of thinking through the stuff, not saying it out loud. Like there's so many ways that you can manipulate this practice to work for whatever scenario you're in. That it's like, I do it in the car all the time. I would say I'm like doing the karate chop point, which is where we like set up around on my steering wheel. And I'm like driving the kids to school or whatever. And, thinking through something, I got one hand on the wheel and one hand tapping and doing the other stuff. It's, it works for me, but it's very accessible. So yeah, an experiment I think is definitely something that I would advise anybody who hasn't tried it to do, because it is such a clear place that you get to so quickly that like for me it was like the most unfamiliar familiar feeling when I got there. And like the only way I can describe it is like going from like floor seats at a rock concert or an alternative concert, and you're like banging around and you're people bumping into you, you're having a great time, but like you don't have like the whole picture going on, or like elevating up to the nosebleeds, or even like the area like up over everything where people like control the lights and everything, like on those like catwalks up there, where it's like you can see everything and it's like peaceful and it's serene and you have the whole picture. Like that's what it feels like after I do a round of tapping. It's like I've just gone up, 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 up. I have that 700-foot view, and it's just like, so that's what's happening with this, instead of like being in the middle of it, just bouncing around all chaotic.
Right. And we've talked about this too. So usually at the beginning of a round, you have the person figure out what their, I think it's called the subjective units of distress, right?
Yes. SUDS.
SUDS. And
essentially that same scale that you get when you go to your doctor, where you rate a pain
right.
on 0 to 10. But yeah.
So it's very similar, right? And so it's like, well, how much distress is this causing you? And then you do a round of tapping in the end, and you ask again. And I mean, I've never, in my experience, ever done a tapping round where it's done anything but decreased dramatically.
Yeah.
And it may not go away completely, but it has decreased dramatically. And
I've never had anybody do it where it hasn't decreased. I know it can go up. A lot of that has more to do with the way that it's approached, which if you're doing it on your own, I could see somebody maybe having something go up if they didn't quite know how to approach what they were talking about. But I think if you're working with somebody who's trained, they're definitely not going to allow any kind of like re-traumatization to happen with whatever you're working on. But it is pretty awesome. I mean, because yeah, it can go up. I mean, I remember studying lots about that when I was, becoming a practitioner, and I was like, okay, so I'll be ready for that. But so far, nobody's had anything but down. And
it's fascinating because the experience, as someone who has experienced it, it's really weird to go from, let's say, a 9 or a 10 to a 2. It feels surreal. You almost don't believe it. And I've sat there and tried to like muster it up again, and it's not there.
Give me back that anger now.
And I don't know why you want to do that, but I guess I'm just a curious.
Right, just testing, testing, and life will test it, and you'll know, because you'll know if you got to it and figured it out or not with the EFT. Because if something does trigger it again, then you know that you didn't exactly work on the aspect that was causing the thing. You missed it, and that's an opportunity to just go in and do it. But I'm sure whatever you did work on cleared something, and I always love the whole borrowed benefits aspect of it too. It's the only type of therapy that has borrowed benefits, where like practitioners feel better after they work on other people. And like my energy is not depleted at the end of the day because I've worked with a bunch of clients, because I have things that are healing in me through the healing work I'm doing with them, even if we're focusing on things that have nothing to do with my own personal challenges. And then like, I know in one of your sessions, I think you had like a cold at the beginning of it or something. You weren't feeling awesome. I don't remember if it was like a upper respiratory thing. And we didn't tap on that. We tapped on whatever it was that you showed up to work on that day. But we took inventory of how you felt at the beginning, and you felt a heck of a lot better having not even worked on the cold at the end. And that's getting borrowed benefits for yourself, like getting to work on what you think the challenge is, and also having other things get better because your cortisol is going down, your stress hormones are going down, your resistance to all the things that you're, putting up resistance again is going down, not just that one thing. So it really shows up beautifully in a lot of different areas at the same time.
I feel like I could tap for the rest of my life on resistance. It's like, I know, Star Trek, resistance is futile, but I don't know. It is, but I really like to resist, and whatever we resist persists. So
yeah. Well, you know what? I would love to, when we're done recording, what we'll do is we'll do a tapping round. Maybe we'll do resistance, and I will have a video of that. And then if people want to shoot me an email, Theresa@TheresaLearLevine.com, which hopefully you can just put in the show notes so people don't have to remember that. Then just put the Fully Mindful as the subject. And you can drop me a line and say hi too. I love hearing from people. But if you're in a rush, you can just type in my email address, type in that subject, and I will make sure that you get this exclusive tapping round that Melissa and I will do afterwards, which I'm sure will be great because we've tapped together so much before. So we'll get right into it and have a good time with it. And maybe resistance will be the topic of that.
And just a warning for anyone who might watch it, there'll probably be some F-bombs in there because I'm known to have
those. I do like those. I've been controlling myself in the podcast. I'm not sure if we're explicit or not here on the Fully Mindful, but trying to be fully mindful of the talk. But I do think that if you are somebody that likes to curse or use specific words when you're expressing yourself fully, those should definitely be brought to the table when you're tapping.
I agree. Well, I'm looking forward to that. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, can you think of one either that you experienced for yourself, whether it was tapping or energy work or both, or maybe one that you've helped somebody through that was really like dramatic, maybe really moving in a way that kind of solidified for you, like, yes, I am doing the right thing here. Like, this is my purpose.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I can think of a lot of them with you, but I'm not going to share your things. But you've made a lot of awesome moves and shifts based on things. So, I'll keep this all anonymous, and this will not be something that you've shared. But I guess when I was working with one of my clients who was also a mom of some young kids, and she's had no consciousness around the way that the past events were still showing up in her life, but she had been through some stuff really traumatizing things. And we worked through, there was a robbery, and there was an assault, and there was all sorts of stuff that happened. And into her young adulthood, she was a drinker, she was lots of whiskey. And when we started working together, it was still that way. It was like, oh, she's just like, I just want to get done with this so I can go have a shot and, whatever. And she was open about the fact that it was a problem, and she didn't quite want to work on it yet, but it only took like a session or two where she was like, yeah, let's tap on this craving here on this alcohol and see what happens. And we just did one round on the craving for the alcohol. And the next time she's like, really haven't wanted to drink at all. She's like, I think I had a shot or two one night, and that was like, we'd seen each other like every week, but she's like, I just haven't really wanted it. And she's like, and so many things are, changing for the better. And, I'm showing up better for my kids, and I'm having more fun, and I'm looking for a new job because I'm not too tired or drunk or passed out or whatever to do those things. And things just really changed rapidly and drastically for her. And it was easy. Like, I think we worked together for like less than 6 sessions on all of that stuff.
Wow.
And there was tons of shifts, and I still see her from time to time, but that's stuck. Like, whenever I talk to her still, it's just like, wow, like she's like, drink every now and then. She's like, I won't say I quit, I don't think she had a goal to, get totally sober, but she's like, I feel like I have the control now, and I didn't feel that way before. And I know that's huge.
Yeah, that's really dramatic. And I mean, has there ever been a time for you where you're like, oh, we've talked about this because, of my own stuff, but like, having doubts, like, am I doing the right thing here? I mean, whether it's when you were starting out, because, it's hard to start a business. I'm sure you did plenty of tapping on that.
Yes.
But, I mean, did you ever have any doubts about the direction that you were headed?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the doubts weren't really about the direction I was headed. It was more like, is this really going to pan out? Like, is this going to work out the way that I want it to? And that's not even a question I really ask anymore. I really understand at this point that our thoughts are so incredibly strong that they create our reality. So if I allow for myself to simmer in that place, then I'm just creating more of what I'm saying I don't want. So every now and then I can catch myself, of course, but I'm going to kick myself back out of it. And I'm going to find something that gets me back into that higher vibe state where I'm, vibrating at the frequency of the things that I want to attract, because I can't attract them if I'm not, and go for it again. Or I'll do a round on, even though I've got these feelings coming up and I, wish they weren't here, I honor them and I love and accept myself anyway, and just kind of tap through it. I mean, self-doubt's not a thing for me, but it's more like, it's more like the fears, when you're doing something new, like right now I'm in the middle of writing my first book and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay. And, we all know, like, if we just kind of hang on long enough with things, then, well, if I don't publish the book, then I don't have to worry about getting a negative review. And if I don't, like, you have to start examining like what or why you're holding yourself back. And that actually isn't something that's bothered me, but I guess it could now. Just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, maybe I am thinking that subconsciously, but like, there's always like a reason why we're kind of dragging our feet or not doing the thing. And that's what I try to be more conscious of right now. It's like, okay, so what do I need to do to boost myself up so I can get to that next thing, that next goal that I have? I've always been a big goal setter and I like to achieve them. So, it's like, what's the next step? What's the next thing I need to do? Get me ready for it.
Well, tell me a little bit about this book that you're writing.
Well, it's a hot mess right now because it's not very organized, because the ADHD brain writing a book looks like there's voice notes here and there's Google Docs here and there's notes on my Evernote there and there's some thoughts up here and there's an outline there that doesn't look like any of those other things.
Right.
I'll pull it together. And we've talked about this before. Like I get these like kind of productive spurts. So I have like all the ideas are like here, and I just need a couple of days to just zap them together into like what they need to be in a magical way that feels in alignment, and it'll all be good. But I really want to share my story and what I know of the different modalities that I love, and some of my clients' progress, and just kind of have something that people can get a better understanding for what's available to them as far as the changes they want to make in their life, and so they can understand that it is realistic and it's doable, and just share more about it. So that's how it's coming together, but it's got a lot more coming together to do. So I'm sure by the time it gets published, it'll be a little clearer than what I just shared.
Oh no, it sounds really great. I can't wait. And I was thinking about your process, and I can relate to that, just having like a million things all over the place and feeling a little bit like, do you remember Pigpen from the Peanuts?
Yeah.
Had like the little, like the dirt all following him around. Like that's how I feel when I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily fight that anymore, because what I've found, and I'm sure this is what you found, is like, that's just the beautiful mess, right? It's all over the place. And, the dust will settle and it will all work out.
It will.
Yeah.
It'll be great. I just wish there was some magical way to just kind of like magnetize all the ideas together into this perfect thing. Cause it's like, I know I've already written, talked about, or, it's all out there. Like the book's already written in various places and in various ways. It just needs to get pulled together. And that to me is the drudgery. Like
that's the drudgery of the ADHD brain, is pulling it from all the different places and actually organizing it. Oh, yes.
That's where I'm like, I just wish I had somebody who knew me well enough to be like, this is the best version of that over here, and this is the best version of that over there, and put it together for me.
It will come together. And
hire a ghostwriter.
Yes, right. Well, I have 3 questions that I usually like to ask people at the end or near the end. And of course, I could go on talking with you forever. These are just fun little things. I don't know. And you can answer them however you want. Doesn't matter. So what is the song or musician who, we were talking about being teenagers, changed your life? Whether that was as a teenager or maybe later on in life. Has there been anyone, and if so, like, who was it? Why?
I love music so much, and like growing up, music meant even more to me, I think, than I have time for it to mean to me now. Mm-hmm. I can't put my finger on like one song. Like it's crazy because stuff will come up now and it's always like a memory related to music. And a lot of times now I'll even just put on the song and I'll just tap to the song or whatever and see if anything comes out while I'm doing that. Like right now, I know that we're going to see Toad the Wet Sprocket, Bare Naked Ladies, and Gin Blossoms this summer.
Oh, fun. That's
and so I'm like, but I haven't like really listened to them with any intent much recently. So I'm like going back through all that and I'm like, oh my God, especially the Toad the Wet Sprocket songs. Like there was a lot of like deep stuff in there that I like would, those more somber teen days lean into, we've both talked about like Depeche Mode and stuff like that.
I honestly didn't know
The Cure was big for me. Like it was a lot of that, like the big emotion, like deeper, darker stuff. But I mean, I just love music. I can't pick one thing. I don't know.
That's
but it's just music got me through so many things. I was in a band. I played guitar. I sang. Music's always been a big part of my life.
What was the name of your band? That's so cool.
The Fire Ants.
I love it. The Fire Ants. What happened to the Fire Ants? Did you break up?
Well, we kind of grew apart. I still talk to my fellow Fire Ants from time to time. We reconnected in adulthood and it's pretty cool. She's actually still plays guitar and sings and, plays at locations and stuff, which is so awesome. But yeah, no, I loved that. And that was like what got me through I was grade school. I started that in middle school, and then it was into like early high school. And then, boys and college and all that stuff came along, and it just kind of dissipated.
Well, I have definite envy. I always wanted to be in a band, but I never was. I did write one song called Moses in Plastic. It was a punk song.
It's probably a hit. I mean,
yeah, probably be great. We could write it. And also, I want to say, I didn't know that anyone other than my husband and I listened to Toad the Wet Sprocket. So that's great. Yeah. So, who knew?
Yep. No, I loved all their albums.
Okay. Next question. Favorite movie or show right now? Just right now.
This Is Us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Are you in the last?
Honestly, because it's the only show I watch, and I'm so depressed that it's going to be done, because I'm not a TV watcher. Like, I love my business, and I love my life and my kids and everything. And it's a robust life just with those things. Like, there's not a whole lot of time. So we'll watch movies together as a family from time to time. Probably watch 2 or 3 movies together a month. And my husband and I'll record This Is Us and catch up on it when we can. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 episodes waiting on the digital recorder before we get to it. Like, it's not, live or every week even, but that show I love. Like, before that, it was like the Parenthood one. And like, I don't know, I love the family shows and the different dynamics and just seeing how people like interact together. But yeah.
I love This Is Us, although I don't know that I'll ever finish it, just because I can watch 1 or 2. I cry a lot. My husband every week cry. And then we can't watch for a little bit. It's like all of this emotion. And I'm told that that'll change after, maybe season 3 or something. I don't know, but I love that you watch that. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's such a good show. I'm sure there's a lot of amazing shows out there that I would like. I don't know. I feel like real life has so much more to offer that I don't get sucked into TV shows as much.
I love that. Okay. Most important question perhaps is, any advice that you wished that teenage self knew? Like, what would you go back and tell yourself now?
So much. So like, what would be the biggest takeaway that would have gotten through her thick head? Let's see. Probably just that you're worthy, like, of whatever it is that you want, and that you're enough, and to just slow down and have fun and not rush it.
I love that. Thank you. That was really good. Well, I know you mentioned earlier where people could find you, and we will also do a separate tapping round, and people can look for that too. But you want to remind us where people can find you?
Yeah, I gave my email address earlier for the tapping round, but another great resource if you want to try tapping would be just going to theresasfreegift.com. That's THERESAS freegift.com. Currently, I have a 5 Minutes to Freedom ebook on there, which has tapping rounds, scribing exercises, an emotional freedom quiz, lots of good stuff. So you can kind of like assess where you are, where you might actually want to focus in on, because for a lot of people, that's the thing they have a hard time putting a finger on, is like, where do I need the help? I don't know. So that'll help you with that. And then you can like pick some tapping videos that jive with what you think you need to work on and give it a go. And pretty much everything in that book is like a 5-minute or less commitment. So it's really doable. And I hope you guys will get that and let me know how it goes if you do try things out. And then if you want that exclusive tapping round that we're going to create like now, then just send me an email, Theresa@TheresaLearLevine.com, and put the Fully Mindful in the subject, and I will get it out to you ASAP.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for showing up for the Fully Mindful and for being in my life. And
it's my pleasure. We're both. I'm so excited that you started a podcast and that you're, chasing so many dreams that you have, and bringing those things to fruition. And it's always a pleasure to work with you and talk with you. So it's fun to be here.
Hey, everybody, it's Melissa, and I'm wondering if you all can relate. Have you ever caught yourself procrastinating, or maybe doubting your abilities, or maybe you have a black belt inner critic like I do or have had, that wants to sabotage your every move with judgment and perfectionism expectations? It might keep you stuck, it might keep you anxious and away from your full potential. The Positive Intelligence Program, PQ, is a powerful 6-week journey designed to help you quiet those saboteurs, embrace positivity, and find flow in your life. Through daily practices and weekly focuses, we'll work together to build your mental fitness. The PQ app will guide you every step of the way and support you, and you'll be supported either by myself in a one-on-one or in a small group of like-minded individuals where you can share insights and progress. So reach out, contact me at info@thefullymindful.com to find out how we can work together one-on-one or in a small group today.